Today we're honored to welcome Jane McGuinness to the show today. I'm very excited to have her on. She talks about so many different amazing topics within the field of wellness and especially eating disorders, right? Because a lot of people are suffering with this. We don't really know how to get out of it, right? Someone who has an amazing story, someone who has been to the other side of that, has a lot of experience to be able to help people within that, right? And she's an author, psychotherapist, and she talks about many things related to this in the emotion aspect, which is really often the root cause, right? We want to get to the root of the issue and have long-term sustainable wellness. So that's why she's on the show today. Very happy to have her on. How are you?
Oh, I'm great,
Absolutely.
Anthony, and thank you for welcoming
Very
me to the show.
curious
It's
to
great to be
hear your
here.
story, how you got
Appreciate
into
it.
wellness and overcoming your own journey, and how you're being of service today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was really, looking back, the root of the disordered eating began in childhood, with a bit of small t trauma, nothing major, but, often we turn to food in times of comfort and it becomes a replacement for love, you know, which is no replacement at all. But it was after the birth of my third child when I realized I gained weight with each pregnancy. I wasn't feeling good in my body. I didn't have energy. I was tired. And I looked in the mirror and I thought, I need to do something and I need to make permanent changes because, I tried all of the ridiculous diet of the months in the past. I tried all of them. Nothing worked because they were quick fixes. And what I realized when I committed for myself and for my children to reclaim my health, I realized that I needed to get to just the root of what was really going on, when I was snacking in the pantry or in the fridge, headed there. And I discovered the work of Janine Roth. She wrote Women, Food and God and Breaking Free from Emotional Eating. That's when I first started to put the pieces together and realize that my hunger had nothing to do with physical hunger. I was anxious, I was stressed, I was tired, I was upset, I was feeling insecure at the time. And so all of those things drove me to comfort eat. And so what I had to do was start to connect that and start to address that so that I could deal with those feelings and emotions and not use food as an escape. So I think a lot of people, for some people it's alcohol, drugs, sex, whatever. For me it was, for whatever reason, it was food, was my comfort. And of course my health spiraled out of control. And I decided, I'm going to take charge of this
Awesome.
and
Yeah, thank
heal
you
my
for sharing
body.
that. It sounds like, as you mentioned, a lot of times we don't
Cool.
know why what we're doing, but it's often an emotional root cause, right? We can be engaging in any type of addiction, right? But what are we trying to cover up with that, right? It's like about getting rid of the issue.
Totally. And it was, recognizing and learning that I was completely dysregulated. And years later, after my divorce, when I went back to school, did my master's in psychology, and I started to understand more about what was really going on, I realized, I was just, that sympathetic nervous system's activated, like we're in fight, flight, freeze, fawn mode. So often we're dysregulated where there's just no interoceptive awareness. So we're not in the body feeling the emotion. And I looked at it and I realized, okay, that's what was going on. Like it was, and that's what drove me, in those states sometimes when somebody might have a binge purge disorder or a binge restrict cycle where they'll restrict food and then their body, the nervous system's jacked up, they don't know what's going on, they're eating in the kitchen without any awareness. There's that part of their brain saying stop, but it's overridden by these very sort of primal instincts. Getting to the bottom of that was really the game changer. And then learning to just engage the parasympathetics, calm myself, like exercise, yoga, meditation, doing the emotional work of healing, sitting with the feelings, like allowing them so that I don't run, I don't go and look for sugar or
Right.
carbs every time I'm
Yeah.
sad, because that doesn't work. Definitely didn't
Yeah.
work because my
Yeah.
pants
Allowing the
didn't fit,
emotions is so key, right? Like, why do you think
But
so many of us we have all these like stuck emotions that we just hold
yeah.
on to for a long time, and we're kind of expressing them in, unideal ways, right? We're kind of engaging in so many different behaviors that we're not really aware of.
Mm, you know, looking back, I think, and even to this day, although there's more conversation and awareness of it now, I just don't think we're taught these tools in childhood. So I now make a point, obviously through my work as a clinical counselor and my work as a therapist, but also make a point to ensure that my children understand this. They're all grown now. My youngest is nearly an adult, but I wanted them to understand, okay, what's key is recognizing that we know, like, we hold emotion in the body, like it's physically stored in here. And if we don't allow it, we can push it down if we're sad or stressed or anxious, but it just comes back stronger if we don't deal with it, allow it, process it. And so I feel that, yeah, these tools, a lot of people just don't have an awareness of their behaviors because they haven't been taught. So we come by it honestly. I found obviously a lot of self-help books. I studied psychology. I took a deep dive into wellness. I also realized I was healing my microbiome because, it's no surprise that when we eat crap, we feel like crap because so much of the serotonin is made in through our digestive tract. It's so those happy tummy bugs, if we're not feeding them with the right food, we don't feel well. So science now understands that. So I realized I'd healed my microbiome before I was even aware that I had one years ago, and now I know why when I eat vegetables I crave more of them. And so we can heal the body. I certainly believe. I know I did. And I kept the weight off now for a decade, a lot of weight, and I've kept it off through common sense exercise and eating real food, lots of vegetables, fruit I love sugar, of course, try not to have too much, but if I feel like something, I'll choose a piece of fruit over, I just try and avoid ultra processed food too, because that just messes with everything and it's
100%. Yeah, it's a
gross.
great point. How do we start to gain awareness on these things, right? Because they can be
Yeah.
kind of in the dark and we don't really perhaps know what we're dealing with or why. So, like, what can we do to become more aware of how we feel?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a great point. As I mentioned, and I write about in my book, the first one that I've written, I actually write about how I discovered yoga as a really powerful pathway into the body. And when I started doing yoga with my kids, actually, I really started to reconnect somatically with my body. And then I started to develop that interoceptive awareness, with grounding practices and breathing exercises. And then I started to check in and notice, like, what's going on with my stomach, because often I was just eating because I was upset or stressed. But when I started to notice, okay, am I physically hungry? Like, am I full? Sometimes people keep eating, they're full. There's just no awareness because we're just shut down from, like, the neck down. We're not feeling what's in the body. So yeah, I think that's absolutely key. I also started walking. So as soon as I got those happy chemicals moving, of course, I felt better. And then when you feel better, I found in my experience anyway, and in my professional experience, it's easier to make healthy choices when we're wanting to make those changes. We just start to move the body gently. Practicing self-compassion is also key. I think people give up quickly. You try a crash diet, you fall off the wagon, people just give up and then, go and eat. It's a huge bender. I think practicing that self-compassion on a tough day, because of course I had them. So many of them on this journey. But then I just recognize, okay, I'm going to get up tomorrow, cook something healthy and go for a walk and yeah, just persist, because healing takes time. If somebody takes decades to gain a lot of weight, we're not going to lose it in a month. I think we all want a quick fix, especially now in this Ozempic, crazed world. And zero judgment if people choose to use it and it works for them. I think that's awesome if it works for them. But that wasn't my path. And I personally found that when we use the power of time to our advantage, like James Clear tells us in Atomic Habits, those small sustainable changes and using those over time, real change is possible. And I believe it's absolutely possible to keep the weight off, because I have. And honestly, no one thought I would. No one thought I'd lose it. No one thought I'd keep it off. And my mother's still shocked. Happy
100%.
but shocked.
Absolutely. So you mentioned a lot of these tools to kind of get the root issue, right? Yoga being one of them. And are there any others that come to mind,
Yeah.
or anything that would be kind of useful for people to kind of experiment with in their own lives?
I would say, if people can afford therapy and they recognize, okay, I really do have a significant problem around food and body image and my relationship with food. If they can access therapy, that's wonderful, but they don't need to. There are also other ways if there are financial constraints. There are so many free resources now on YouTube. There is the meditations, there are beginner yoga, classes online. Also, I would encourage people to look into interoceptive, like somatic work around grounding the body. There's a lot of guided practices online where, we start to feel the weight of our body on the seat. We start to, you press your feet into the floor. You start to notice just reconnecting with the body. So I would encourage people to jump online, because there's a lot out there that can be accessed for free. That's incredibly powerful. And then just starting to, if there are no physical constraints, of course, starting to move the body. And I guarantee if people, I know I used to take a shorter walk and then I just started walking more and more. And, then you feel better. So I started incorporating hills, and now I hike and mountain bike. And I mean, I was active as a child until my teens when I started to gain the weight. My parents were unhappy. There were reasons. Of course, I was going to the fridge looking for love, all the wrong places. But it's, yeah, now with looking back, I recognize that I'd always loved exercise. I just, I got to my teen years, and like a lot of us, we stopped participating in team sports. So I'd lost that connection with my body, and then rediscovering that, finding joy in movement. Some people say, I hate exercise, and I respect that. But I think there's always something, whether it's a dance class, something that involves movement. I say it's just figuring out what you love that involves moving your body and reconnecting and doing it. I mean, I love a whole lot of physical activity now, but some people may discover a love of jogging, or they might discover a Zumba class, or maybe it's restorative yoga, just reconnecting with the body. I think that's key, figuring out, making it fun. I think exercise should be fun for me now, like mountain biking
Right.
or skiing it's fun, It's supposed to be fun to move our bodies. It's not
100%. Yeah.
supposed to be a chore.
Yoga, somatic work, really getting connected
Yeah.
with movement, right? Somatic work is great for so many things. It's like really
Yeah.
connecting to kind of our bodies through what could have happened in the past. And it's really kind of like listening, right? Learning to listen to our signals. It can be very healing in that process.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And for people that are eating because of trauma, sometimes significant trauma, that it's, that pain's being masked with food, then that's when, of course, therapy is very helpful. I mean, there's also a lot of terrific self-help books, a lot of different ways to process those emotions. But I think it's key to make space and allow them, because if we're storing them in here and masking and, just really just using food as a distraction, as a comfort, then it's a cycle that no quick fix diet will ever fix. Like if the root cause is grief, sadness, trauma, like something that's buried, I believe very strongly that we need to process that in a safe way and allow that so that we can heal. And the only way is, to lean in and get comfortable, and through discomfort, sit with the feelings and know that they'll pass. Because emotions, of course, and it's like a wave, it comes, it'll intensify, but then it does ease. And so with practice, with the work, as I said, through therapy or otherwise, just allowing yourself to make space with compassion. It's painful when at the time. So of course, when it comes back up and we're healing it, there's going to be pain. And but ultimately that's how we feel. That's how we heal, excuse me. Like we have to allow these feelings to pass through us so that we can get to the other side and release that stored, sometimes very, very deeply stored pain and trauma or sadness,
100%. Yeah.
or all three.
As you mentioned, you got to make it fun too with the somatic work.
Yeah.
It's like making that process joyful, right? But at the same time, it's like all these feelings, like feelings are temporary, right? It can be very difficult to feel them, but if you can't feel, you can't heal in a sense. So being able to kind of move through these
Yeah.
and kind of alchemize it into something greater, right? As opposed to just kind of like doing something
Yeah.
like to kind of distract it. It doesn't go away. It just kind of like kind of festers in a sense. So developing that sense of self to kind of move forward is so important.
Oh, you're absolutely right. That phrase that's oft used, feel it to heal it. It's true. I've seen it in my work. I know with myself, with some small t childhood trauma, the only way, you know, is to sit with the discomfort and to allow it and to process it. But, the reward on the other side is huge. It's the ultimate reward when you get to that piece of, to that place of calm and peace in the body. where we are regulated. And also, I think once people learn the tools, then, I mean, I know myself, if my sympathetic nervous system's activated and I'm headed to the kitchen, I'm frustrated, usually I can stop myself and recognize it and go, okay, what do I need to do now to engage the parasympathetics and start to calm down, start to make a better choice, look at what's going on. So, like anything, it gets easier with practice. In the beginning, it won't be easy because if we have these habits, that have, gosh, developed sometimes over decades, it's going to take time to heal. That's where the self-compassion is really, really important, just to be gentle and recognize, yeah, it'll take as long as it takes. It's absolutely possible, and it's my experience. It's definitely worth it to do the
100%.
work and heal.
Why is it you think that we just go to quick
Yeah.
fixes? We mentioned that a few times. It's easy to do that, but it also doesn't lead to long term healing either. Like, why do people just go there? Is it because of lack of knowledge? Like, what is it that we're not seeing that we can do in terms of like the somatic work and things like that? That would be more beneficial.
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly diet culture and the diet industry is partly to blame because we're marketed these. We're told it will be easy. We're told, 30 days to a new you, or try this 14-day detox, and suddenly, you'll have your old bikini body back. So I think we're sold a lie often. People are told that it will be easier. They're not told that actually this is going to be hard work. And I think, like most things in life, like if something's worth having, it's going to involve hard work. And I think the world we live in, it's all about instant gratification. We can order something online, it's here tonight. We can order food, it comes to the door immediately. We jump online, like everything's at our fingertips. So if somebody's told, well, actually, it'll take months or years of work to heal the body, people don't want to hear that. A lot of people, I mean, I don't know, I mean, possibly, I suppose, looking back in my 20s, had I been told, well, it'll take years to truly heal the body, I wouldn't have been thrilled with that news either. But what I know now at 48 is that this journey that I've been on, it, it was worth every moment of struggle because the reward now is I've been at a stable, healthy weight for a decade. I love exercise. I love good food. I've modeled that to my children, and now they're all, they all have a really healthy, happy relationship with food in their body. So I know that it is worth it. If it takes a year or two to heal something that's taken many years, sometimes decades, to develop, well, is that not worth it? Because the gift is then the rest of your life. I mean, God willing, I'm hoping to have quite a few more decades on the planet. And now I get to have them in a healthy body where I'm most of the time like calm, regulated, and just loving life. So it was, yeah, I would say to people, we need to look at the big picture because often, boom, January 1st, everybody wants, a New Year's diet. They want it by February, look like they did at college. And it's really like we've got to give it time and use that to our advantage. And yeah, patience is a virtue I wasn't blessed with. I mean, you can ask my mother, like I was never patient, but I had to learn that on this journey and be gentle and realize. I also think that by losing the weight slowly, that was part of the reason I was able to keep it off naturally without any kind of, extreme interventions. So I think that, yeah, so I know for myself, as my weight started to lower, my body got used to the set points, the new set points. It wasn't such a shock to the system. And so I was just gradually over time able to sort of rebuild my body in a way, and reclaim it. And yeah, so I just think we're sold a lie by diet industry telling us it'll be quick and easy when,
Right.
that's just crap. it's,
100%.
it's work.
And the thing is, like, we
Yeah.
become a model and a light for what is
Yeah.
possible through our own journey, right? That can lead to inspiration as well. Because when we start to embrace it, like, hey, this is actually going to be bigger than me in a sense, right? We kind of turn our mess into our message, right? And we just kind of
Yeah.
work through that. And we realize that not only is it possible,
Mm.
my story can help others as well. So you start to kind of embrace that and use the inspiration and just keep moving forward.
Exactly. And I mean, that's why when I wrote this story, I wanted it to be funny. So like in here, I took two of my three children on the Camino de Santiago and we did a section of that, and there were funny things that happened. And I included them because I didn't want this to be a dry, boring, this is I lost weight, you can too book. One reviewer online actually said she was surprised. She didn't think she'd like it. She was surprised because she enjoyed it, because she thought it was going to be like a dry, sort of dull book. But I wanted to share the funny anecdotes and the humor along the way and the pain, and with sort of very, very raw vulnerability, because I wanted to connect with people and let them know, yeah, it's messy in the middle. It was a lot of fun along the way. And the joy is that now, I mean, I'm looking forward to planning the next Camino and the next hike, and, hikes with my kids. Like, we can do all of that now together. Had I not made these changes, I wouldn't be able to do that with them. I wouldn't have been able to hike across Spain, like with a backpack. And it was just so much fun. And yeah, so I included that in the story. There's a lot in the book, the messiness of divorce, because that's real life. It is messy. I wanted to share that to connect with people and let them know through my own vulnerability. Yeah, let's own this. I truly own the fact that, like, as a kid, my mother was always telling me to get out of the fridge, and it was just, my relationship with food was just really, really unhealthy. So I'm extremely honest about that. And then for those reasons, I thought, okay, if I can connect with people and help them through my next book and the next book, then if I can help one or two people, that's a huge win. That's why I did this.
100%. So you talk a lot about eating disorders as well. Like,
Yeah.
so in specific, like why is that like such a struggle for some people? And what are some things to know and kind of like move through that in a sense and get to the other side?
Well, I think what we have to recognize firstly, and I realized, is that, society, at least here in the West, it's not really set up to help us succeed in terms of having maintaining our physical health as we age, because we have all of these labor saving devices. Everybody drives everywhere. We have, like, we're just surrounded by these ultra processed foods which are addictive. I mean, I look at someone, I think, well, it's not your fault if you're addicted to something that was designed to be addictive. I mean, the manufacturers, they know they're making it addictive because they want people to keep buying. It's all profit. So, the world we're in doesn't set us up for success, which is why we have to take back control. So I won't keep ultra processed foods in the house. I mean, I don't like them. I eat them and, just feel sick. But I think it's important to recognize that, yeah, we have to take charge, because, I mean, it'd be very easy for me to drive everywhere every day. It's quicker, but I know that when I walk, if I just need a bag of groceries, then typically I'll walk because I feel better. I'm getting a bit of an upper body workout on the way home because I'm carrying the groceries back, or I throw them in a backpack. And so I try and just sort of in these incidental moments, include exercise in my day. There's exercise involved with just even food preparation, actually cooking from scratch, chopping vegetables, doing all of those things, because it's so easy to, go and do the drive through or order in. And then it's, obviously for the most part, way less healthy for the body. And there's no energy. We're not expending energy. I think our ancestors, they didn't have to go to the gym, of course, because, their lives involved physical work. And when most of us sit down at a job, I know when I'm sitting down writing as I'm working on my next book, I have to be even more careful about making sure I move my body. And yeah, or I can end up sitting down all day, and then I don't feel as good at the end of the day because I haven't got the blood pumping. So yeah, think we need to look at our lives and recognize, okay, well, what's realistic? Like, what can I do that's going to work for me in my world? And to make small, positive, just realistic, manageable changes over time that absolutely add
Yeah,
up.
100%. The ultra processed food companies, like they really do make you addicted to their thing. It's like, I mean, they use a tool called a gas chromatograph,
Yeah.
which basically kind of mimics flavor, and it's like designed for the right taste, the crunch, right? But there's like no nutrition, but there's all these calories.
Oh, totally. Like, I love those almond crackers, which I try not to keep in the house because I pretend they're healthy, but they're full of, the seed oils and a whole lot of other stuff. And, I'm not saying never have them, and I would have them occasionally. I don't believe in forbidding food, because I think if I was to tell myself I'd never have ice cream again, for example, then all I would do is crave it. So, it's moderation, which is why my Substack is called All Things Moderation. Like, if I've had a huge workout, or and or it's really hot and I'm on holidays or whatever, of course I'm going to have an ice cream. But I'm not going to have it every day, because I think our grandparents got it right when they said some foods are treats. We're not meant to eat cheesecake every day. It's meant to be for a birthday or a celebration or a dinner out. So I absolutely advocate moderation. And yeah, things like almond crackers or corn chips, of course they're yummy. I won't keep them in the house because if I do, it's tempting. And of course you can't stop at one because they're addictive, they're salty, we want more. So I do try and set up my environment for success, and yeah, like of course occasionally, like I'm not saying I would never have that if I'm out at a restaurant or whatever and we're having Mexican. Of course, it's yummy, but I just try and really just balance it out with, healthy intake for the most part and then movement. It's that balance. So again, that's why I had to call my Substack All Things Moderation. So I'm not going to forbid anything, but yeah, I'm not eating chocolate every day because if I did, my pants wouldn't fit.
Yeah, I mean, when we say you can't do something, it's like human psychology to want to do that thing even more.
Yes, it's like bread. When I did years ago, I did the no bread, no carb diet. And of course, what did I think about all day, every day? Like, and I love good sourdough. And I know it's a privilege. We have an organic bakery here. Total privilege to be able to buy it. And so I'll enjoy it. But I mean, I'm not going to sit down and eat like half a loaf, So I balance it out with, okay, what's my intake been like today? Like, I do believe that good food's meant to be enjoyed. But yeah, I'm not going to ban any one thing because if I told myself I'd never have sourdough again, like I'd be dreaming about it. And then a month from now, I would go and eat, half a loaf because I would have missed it. And that's not healthy. So and when it's not forbidden, I can think, well, actually, I don't feel like it today. Maybe I'll make a nice Italian bruschetta one day and have it and enjoy it. And, respecting the food in my body, I think that's another big piece. When we don't slow down mindfully, we're often not tasting the food. So there's no, if we're eating at the kitchen counter, we're not enjoying the meal. We're not actually savoring the food. So mindfulness actually is another tool that I've helped clients with and incorporate in my own life. My kids are very aware. I'm always telling them, sit down when you eat, get a knife and fork, like sit at the table. Let's light some candles. Let's actually have conversation. And I think that's something also in the past, that our ancestors did well. So then they're respecting their bodies. They're respecting the food. It's not just a big rush, to slam down something and get out the door. I think that's not healthy.
Yeah, 100%. Mindfulness is so key because it stops us from like overeating and we kind of like enjoy the process as well. We can kind of like become
Yeah,
satiated more and just kind of like incorporate the senses and all those things.
totally. Exactly. Because we are meant to enjoy food and good food. I mean, it's just, you know, sounds like a bit of a cliche, and I know everyone's heard it before, but if you try new vegetables, like I guarantee people will discover foods that they love that they may not have any awareness of. My kids and I are currently like just going through like the 3 or 4 or 5 different types of, yams or sweet potatoes. There's the purple one, the white one, and, getting excited about trying new recipes. And of course, through Instagram and other things, there's no end to the healthy recipes that are out there now. So that's been fun too, to tweak recipes with whole food, and like I had a problem with cheesecake, which is why, there's a cheesecake on the cover of my book. There's a funny story in there about cheesecake when I was, yeah, quite frankly, eating it when I was stressed or sad. And now, I mean, of course I'll have it occasionally, but we've discovered, healthier cheesecake recipes online. We can make it, with super healthy, dates, nuts, whatever, almond flour and things like that. So again, it's still a treat, but yeah, there are ways to also get creative and tweak recipes so that what I'm putting into my body gives me more energy. I feel better. I don't feel heavy and gross afterwards because I've just had a whole lot of, sugar and refined sugar and fat and all that other stuff that's, well, unhealthy fats, I should say.
Yeah,
You know
for
what I
sure.
mean? Yeah.
Talked
Yeah.
about like building small habits every single day too, right? Like these small actions that really kind of lead to reaching our goals or just kind of like overall fulfillment, right? Because it's not about being perfect, but it's about progress, right? Making those small actions every single day, getting those small wins in. It's so important just for our psychology as well, just to be fulfilled in our overall lives.
Yeah. Exactly. Because it adds up. People think, oh, one walk's not going to do anything. But I guarantee if they did that every day for a year and they didn't change anything else, they're still going to feel better at the end of the year. I mean, science tells us, like, if we're exerting more energy, like if it's, if we take in the same amount and we're suddenly moving more for, say, an hour a day, of course that's eventually going to show up. And it mightn't show up right away. I think sometimes people are disappointed when they don't see a huge result after 3 days. But of course it takes time. So yes, we do those small things every day for a year. You know, for example, if I just decided, I don't have to, I try not to have too much sugar because we know that's super addictive, right? And it's refined sugar is really, there's no goodness in it. So, but if somebody did decide, okay, I'm going to eliminate it or have a lot less and, put 1 teaspoon in my coffee instead of 3 or 4, like those little things, a year from now, of course their body's going to feel a little better. They've taken in less sugar. Like it's just, yeah, it's about those small choices too.
Definitely. I mean, my philosophy on ultra
Yeah.
processed food is I personally don't eat any at all, just because like it goes beyond the health for me. Like I also like I know these people they're not invested in their own health and wellness, right? They don't necessarily care. They care more about the profit. Like I
Yeah.
don't want that type of energy anywhere around me. It's like it's a whole nother thing. It's like just
Yeah.
just kind of eat food from nature is a whole nother concept, and you feel so much better.
Oh, it's so true. You're right. And when you look at the back of the packs, I know my kids understand this too because I taught them on this journey. If you can't read and identify like what's in that food, because there's so many in Australia, we have numbers for different additives, and here they'll have the word. But when you look at something and there's like 50 things in there and you don't know what it is, I'm thinking that's not meant to be in the human body. Like we're not. This is not supposed to go in here. It's just. Yeah, there's a reason there's no label on a banana because it's just a banana. It's just, yeah, or spinach or kale or, whatever it is, or an apple.
Right.
And so, no, I agree with you. Absolutely. Like it's just, yeah. And it's criminal that people are fed this addictive food and it's marketed so heavily to everybody, of course, including kids, as we know. It really is, I believe, absolutely criminal because the industry knows it's killing people with this food. And then, of course, they're sold the antidote. Big Pharma sells them the solution. Like it's just, yeah, it's absolutely
Right. I
criminal.
mean, because they have different
Yeah.
ingredients in different countries based off the legality. So it's like very interesting to think about.
Oh, totally. And yeah, I know myself now. Like we were at, my kids love Trader Joe's, but they got something one day. I don't know. It was like puffed something. It was like it's a processed food, and they wanted it. And they've got their own money at this point. And I remember having someone trying it, and I did kind of feel gross afterwards. Like in my mouth, it was like that. There was just that yucky taste, and you're getting a whole lot of random seed oils and other things, and it just. And that's when I realized with interoceptive awareness, when we develop that, there's a reason if I make like healthy sweet potato fries in the air fryer with a bit of olive oil, salt, or whatever, there's a reason I feel really good afterwards and I have energy and my brain's clearer, my mind. Like, yeah, so now, same. Like, I just avoid it because I know, no, if I eat that, if I'm at someone's house and they put out something, I respect their choices, but I know if I eat it, I'm just going to feel like shit.
I mean, you become more acute to these things after you change your diet. Like you don't really have an understanding if you're just kind of like you so used to the ultra processed food, you don't really have an awareness of it. But then you start to shift it. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
this is what is actually different here.
Oh, totally. And I remember when I took a deep dive into Tim Spector's work, and he explains way more about the microbiome. And what I learned through him is that, of course, if I'm eating Ben and Jerry's every night, then I'm feeding those sugar bugs, and then the microbiome, then I crave more of it. Whatever we've got going in there proliferating wants more. So, which is why there's an antidote in the book here where I talk about how when I spent a few weeks in Greece, I was eating Greek salad pretty much every day. And then I truly craved it. I got back home to Vancouver and I was honestly like, for the first time in my life, I wasn't craving sweets. I was craving a Greek salad and the red onion and the cucumber. And I realized, wow, like my microbiome in that short amount of time had reset even further. And that was a real game changer, like recognizing that. So now I know the more healthy choices I make with whole foods, the more I crave that. And so that we can use that knowledge to our advantage. because it's, like I said, it's not as if I would never have an ice cream. I mean, of course I still love it, but I also know the next day, my body is going to feel a little different. So I try and see it as, yeah, treat food. I don't see what's wrong with recognizing that our grandparents, their grandparents were right about that. These things, we're not meant to have something like that every day in the body because the energy balance is out. I'm not going to burn that up unless I'm doing something physical. My body's not going to need all of that extra energy, especially at night after dinner. If it's a huge bowl of ice cream, what's my body going to do with that at that point? I'm just going to go to bed and store it. Like I know that now, so yeah, it's just using common sense. But of course, when we hiked the Camino, we were burning so much energy every day. Like we still ate well, but of course, I could enjoy a glass of red at night or a piece of Tata de Santiago, and I was going to burn it up in 5 minutes because you walk 20 or 30 kilometers a day,
Yeah,
you go through a lot of energy.
energy balance is key.
So that was no.
My personal philosophy is like if you want to have a cupcake every now and then, that's fine. But how about we upgrade the
Yeah,
ingredients, right? How about we use real cacao, real blueberries, like almond flour, instead of like eating something that's just going to blatantly hurt you? I feel like
yeah,
that would be a much better approach.
yeah. Oh, exactly, 100%. And there are, like I mentioned earlier on Instagram and elsewhere, there's so many terrific healthy recipes that are free that people can access if they want to get creative in the kitchen and yeah, try and take their favorite food and make it in a healthy way. Like, no, I couldn't agree more. I mean, protein is the other one. I recognized that when I was younger, I wasn't having enough of just healthy proteins. And so, of course, I was craving sugar and carbs. So now I do make sure, and I look at my meal, like, what am I having? Am I having, you know, whether it's salmon or chicken breast or egg or whatever? I do have to, yeah, make sure that I'm getting enough. And certainly at this stage, you know, from everything I'm starting to dive into with regard to perimenopause and then menopause down the track, for women. I mean, we all have different needs at different points in our life, but it becomes really important as a woman to make sure I'm getting enough protein. So often people don't when they hit perimenopause and menopause and then gain weight and wonder why. So I'm learning more about that as I go along and certainly going to write more about that in my second book as I navigate that. So, I mean, just have to balance that. When you're eating enough healthy protein and lots of vegetables and fruit, there's no room. I'm not craving chocolate and there's no room for it because I'm full. If I've just had like a big warm chicken salad, with quinoa and a whole lot of roasted Mediterranean vegetables, I'm satisfied. That's a really awesome feeling.
100%. Yeah, because protein is so satiating, right? It's very thermogenic, so your body uses a lot of resources and calories to actually digest that protein, right? And it's very
Yeah.
fulfilling for your body, for the vegetables and all that, because what you're doing is you're actually getting the nutrients that your body requires, right? But when you eat ultra processed food, what you're doing is you're eating empty calories. Okay, your body has this
Mm.
need for hunger, right? So you're eating, but it's not getting any of the nutrients that your body is asking for. So that means you're going to be hungry again very quickly. You're just getting a bunch of calories, but no nutrients. But when you're eating real food,
Yeah.
your body's actually, hey, this is what I need. So we're good, right? So you just kind of feel
Yeah.
satiated and fulfilled.
Oh my gosh. And that's so true. And when I truly started to make changes that were, well, really, like my youngest is nearly 18. So this journey began when he was born nearly 18 years ago. When I realized, okay, it's time to do something. So I don't want to die here. I could, my pants were getting bigger and I thought I could just see the trajectory and I thought, okay, I'm the only one who can make these changes in my life. When I started to do that, of course, started to realize, oh, I need more protein. My iron was low. I need to fill up on vegetables because, of course, when I eat enough fiber, which is also super important and filling, then yeah, the cravings for the other stuff, they start to decrease over time. So it was gradual, but yeah, so important for sure. And yeah, now it's a daily thing. I have to make sure, okay, like what healthy protein am I having here? So that yeah, my body gets what it needs. And there's an ex that I write about in the book too, Dr. A. He features, and it's a funny chapter. And yeah, we're still friends. But anyway, he told me, he said, Jane, make sure your body's working for its calories, like you say, because we have to work harder to extract the calories out of whole food and protein and, certain things that we're eating, as opposed to ultra processed foods where we get a whole lot of energy quickly. Your body doesn't have to work. So, of course, it stores it. So that was really good advice. So I still think about that sometimes. Like if I've made, if it's a huge, obviously warm salads are a big favorite of mine, but I look at it and I'm like, yeah, my body's going to have to work to extract the nutrients out of this. So that's a good thing, and work harder to digest the protein and all the rest of it and the nuts and seeds and whatever. And yeah, it just works. It's figuring out what works. And we're all different. I respect that. So, if somebody has another way that works for them, that's awesome. This is just what's worked for me.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, cravings are
Yeah,
often from nutrient deficiencies as well. Like, because we're not necessarily getting certain things, but they say it's actually when we give our body what it needs, it's like, hey, we're good. I mean, that's what oftentimes is what I see.
totally. Like my iron was super low and I had no idea. So, of course, when my iron was low, I was fatigued. And so then I would crave sugar even more because I was looking for a quick energy hit. Whereas, yeah, so I had to address that. So I think it's helpful for people to get blood work done and just see, okay, what am I low in? If that's the case for some people. So I know that for myself, that was a piece of the puzzle too. There were so many puzzle pieces like the mindfulness, the yoga, the nutrition, like the movement, all of it, that go into wellness. And then, of course, the social aspect, which is also key too, so that we do feel better when we're surrounded by people we love and care for. And so our life becomes more than just food. For some people they hyper focus, but yeah, it's just, as I say, in the book too, we all just need to build a life that we don't want to escape from.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times we just think
Yeah.
about food all the time, but like, when you're satiated and fulfilled, it's like it's not really something that is just like consuming your life, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's so easy to obsess because I used to obsess when I'd try these crazy diets and was very good at obsession. And then, yeah, finally getting to the point, you're right, where it's life is more than that and we can enjoy it, have something yummy and healthy, and then just get on with our day.
Yeah.
So we stop the constant, the rumination and the preoccupation, where I think when people get trapped in those binge restrict cycles or the constant diet cycles and regain and loss, it's sometimes it's all people can spend a lifetime doing that and it's all they think about.
Right.
And yeah, our life needs to be more than that. This should be an enjoyable part of our life, eating good food. And then yeah, but there's so much more that goes into thriving and yeah, living a good life. So I'm really I advocate that, and I'm really passionate about that. So yeah, in future books, going to be writing more about that too, because it's
Yeah.
we're meant to have fun while we're down here on Earth, aren't we? Like it's supposed to be a fun experience.
Yeah. You mentioned like, because the body actually has to work to actually digest food in a sense. Like, there's something called the thermic effect of food, which is basically how our bodies use calories to burn calories and digest things, right? It's
Yeah,
like, because digestion is
yeah,
a whole process, right? Assimilation and all that. And a lot of times, like the calories, it's like, it's more so about what's influencing them in a sense. Like our body, like the thing that we see on the label
hmm.
is not necessarily what we're ingesting, because there's so many different things and different factors that kind of go into that in a sense.
Oh my gosh, it's so true. Yeah, it's so true. And I learned that the hard way, and then started to do the research myself and looked into it, and yeah, figured out exactly why. Like using the Greek salad example in Greece, like why I felt so good. There's like yummy feta cheese, tomato, um, red onion. Like some places they'd throw in flat leaf parsley, the Italian parsley, like cucumber. But there's a reason I was feeling so good eating that. And yeah, the body has to work harder, like you say, to to digest all of that, to break it all down. All of the fiber helped me to feel better in my tummy. Like everything just works. I think our body tells us when it's working well because we're giving it the nutrition that it needs.
Yeah. Because like, as opposed to like the ultra
Yeah.
processed food, it's like, there's something called anti-nutrients, right? So it's basically like a stress on your
Mhm.
body where it's like, making a lot of chaos take place, like inflammation, AGEs or advanced
Oh,
glycation end products, all these different things. It's like causing so much dysfunction, and it's like almost taking from your body.
yeah, Yeah, no, it's so true. And it shows up on my face. Like if I'm traveling and if I'm having trouble, say I'm traveling somewhere, I write about that in the book too. Like I'm stuck at an airport and, sometimes it's hard to find healthy food and you're hungry. I mean, if I don't eat well for a couple of days, it absolutely shows up on my face. I look tired. I don't feel as well because I don't do Botox. I mean, there's a funny chapter in here about Botox because I hate it and I tried it once. And again, other people might love it. I respect that, but I don't. And I know that myself, people have asked me about my skin and other than, cream I put on it or whatever, I think we are what we eat. So when I'm eating well, of course my skin looks better and I feel healthier at 48, because I'm giving my body what it needs. So I think that shows up on the outside, like you say, with inflammation. We start to get achy and tired. We've got no energy. Yeah, I could never live like that now because, well, obviously I want to go and hike another Camino with my kids, but I want to wake up with energy and feel good and look in the mirror and know, it's reflected back, I think. Like our body tells us. I know when I look in the mirror, like if I've, been out and had too much red wine the night before on a big meal, like on a holiday, for example, I don't advocate, of course, drinking heavily, but I do appreciate a glass of red occasionally. But I know if the balance is out, the next morning I look in the mirror, my body's telling me like, this let's like curb this,
Right. Yeah.
I just don't feel as well, and yeah, it's reflected back. So I think we just need to listen to our body and that innate wisdom that's telling us what we need.
Yeah. We gotta listen. Like, I already know. It's like we just often have to get out of the way. Cause like there's this innate wisdom that it's like we want to be well. Like we're designed to be healthy. We just gotta take those proper steps and believe for sure.
Exactly, and we're designed to move. That's the other thing. I know some people will say they hate exercise, and I don't. I respect that their views and feelings, but I wonder if maybe they just haven't found something they love because it could be a dance class. It doesn't have to be. People sometimes think exercise. They think, oh, I've got to go to the gym and run on a treadmill. Some people love it. I mean, my daughter's training for a marathon. She loves to run, and that's awesome. That's her thing. I mean, I'm not a runner. I'm a hiker, but I think people, yeah, it's just perhaps need to just give something new a chance that they haven't tried before. There are so many different ways to move, but I do believe we're meant to move the body, unless our legs, obviously if physical constraints or disabilities aside, of course, but if you've got two legs that work, we're meant to move them. We're not meant to sit all day. Like I think we were designed to walk. That's why we're given this body. Yeah, so I feel very, very strongly about that.
Yeah,
And
we're designed to move, right? A lot of times we have these arbitrary ideas of what we're supposed to do, and like it doesn't fit within our own lifestyle, so we don't do it. And it's like, it's not for me. But the reality is, we just gotta find a way that works for us. Because again, this is like, it's built into who we are
yeah,
as humans. Like we're designed to move, especially walking. That's like number one thing, honestly, getting that movement in. And
yeah.
we just start to take these things on and start to build these habits. You're gonna realize we just feel so much better and perform better in every area of life for real.
Oh my God. I mean, totally, totally. I know when my youngest was born and I'd put them in the pram or I'd get up before my husband at the time would go to work. And I remember committing and finding a friend, which helped. So it can help, of course, to work out with a friend, but I would drag myself out of bed and go for a walk. And this was in the early days when I was in a much larger body. But I knew that I had to just get up and do it if I wanted the reward and I wanted to make these changes. So there was work involved, but I guarantee I felt better every day afterwards. And if I had a day when it didn't happen, I didn't quit. I think that's key, that self compassion piece of saying, okay, well, I'm going to keep going. But yeah, showing up and, doing it for ourselves, like investing in the future. My son said something terrific in a recent university application I read. He wanted me to proofread his essay, and he said, I'm paraphrasing, but basically, this quote he lives by essentially says, the decisions I make today determine who I am tomorrow. And I love that because this is someone, he goes to the gym. He also loves good food. He's a foodie, but, he's really passionate about healthy eating too. And I was inspired when I read that because I thought it's spot on. The decisions I make today, like it's raining out, but, going for a walk later, putting on a raincoat, that determines who I am tomorrow when I wake up. And yeah, of course I don't want to go and walk in the rain, but I know that I want to have the energy tomorrow when I wake up. So I'm going to do it, you know?
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I love
yeah. I
that.
think
Who
me
we are to
too.
be, or now becoming, for sure.
Yeah, I just love that my 17-year-old, my kids teach me, and that's super inspiring. This next generation, I think, yeah, a lot of them they're figuring it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like I'm just super proud of this next generation when I see them doing these wonderful positive things in the world and making these changes. And they've got tools that we didn't have. I know growing up I didn't have them because, well, the internet was in its infancy, so I didn't have access to all of these resources. I didn't know all of this about health and wellness and what our body needs. So I'm glad that the next generation can learn this. They don't have to make the same mistakes that I did and others did, perhaps. The
yeah,
knowledge, the information's out there for people that want it through shows like yours, where you're sharing this knowledge with people, which is so important.
yeah. It's awesome. What it's all about, for sure. I mean, once we start taking these positive steps in our lives, like movement, positive relationships, exercise, all these things. So we start to feel better about ourselves. We start to build this positive momentum, and we start to
Yeah.
feel better. And we start to do better, right? It's so much easier to make these high quality decisions coming from a place of love and fulfillment within ourselves. It's so much easier to
Yeah.
be of inspiration as well when we're actually living from the truth in our heart, and that's what it's all about. Just like being a model in life for what's possible.
Yeah. Exactly. No, it's so true. And I did also want to, as you said, like I wanted to make a change. And I thought if I can inspire one or two people to do the same, because I know what it's like to be in a much larger body and to not have energy, not feel good, and also feel trapped and think, well, this is me. Like I'm always going to be overweight and uncomfortable. I know that, yeah, we can heal the body and change. And it's possible to maintain that. And it's also possible to enjoy life along the way. It's not torture. And
Yeah,
so yeah, which is why I really wanted to write this story and share it in a really honest, vulnerable way, but also with humor because frankly, we all need to laugh more, and enjoy
right.
life more. So yeah, there was a lot of reasons I was super honest in the book. Like I think far more honest than people thought I would be in terms of sharing really candid, raw, somewhat embarrassing stories. But that's how I want people to know I've been through it. I get it. We can heal. Like we can,
Absolutely.
yeah.
I
That's
mean,
my
when you
goal.
share a story, it's like you can kind of connect with other people and can, hey, I actually gone through this. Maybe not all of it, but hey, I can relate to this in some type of way. I can use this to, better my own journey. That's what it's all about: spreading the message, spreading the mission. So, very awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. No, I told my friends when I wrote this, I said, if I help one person who can relate and maybe where I was 15, 20 years ago with their own emotional eating disorder, and if they're struggling, like, that's a win. Like, I will go to bed happy at night knowing I've helped someone, like, truly.
100%. All
Yeah.
right, Jane, this has been awesome. I appreciate you so much for coming on the show today, sharing your story with us, all your insights about, emotional root causes, right? Because really what it's all about. It's like there's so many different things that we can get into in our lives, but if we're not really getting to the root of the issue, oftentimes it's our inner world that creates our outer world. Like, so the emotions, our thoughts, everything that we've been through, and getting to the root of the issue so we can actually heal, right? Because all
Yeah.
these external things, they're usually a result of how we feel internally. And once we kind of move beyond that, we start to take these positive actions and be a life for what is possible. We start to do all these amazing tools like yoga, breath work, anything that works for us in our own journey, and we kind of incorporate that, and we live this life of fulfillment, right? That's what it's all about, and living a life of truth, and living authentically, and again building these positive relationships, and just moving forward is what it's all about. And again, appreciate you. It's been really fun.
Oh, thanks very much for having me, Anthony. Like, I really appreciate your time. Oh, it's been terrific.
For
Thank
sure.
you.
If people want to connect with you and your work, where can we go for that?
Sure. So they can go to www.janemcguinnesstheauthor.com. My book's also it's on Amazon. There's links through the website, links to socials. All Things Moderation is the Substack. Audible. I also narrated the book, so if they're into audiobooks, there's the ebook version. Barnes and Noble. But yeah, I know a lot of people will click an Amazon link. I get that. It's quick and easy. But yeah, JaneMcGuinnessTheAuthor.com. They can find everything there. And yeah, I'd be super thrilled to hear from anybody who wants to reach out. That'd be awesome.
All right. Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks very much, Anthony. Much appreciated.